Well, we have ourselves two pretty interesting contract signings to go over in today's video. One of them relates to the NHL, the other absolutely does not. But they are both fairly interesting, and they both are, I think, worth talking about. So without further ado, let's dive into the Montreal Canadiens, shall we? Because the Habs and defenseman Jayden Struble have signed a contract this morning, avoiding arbitration. It's a 2-year deal for Struble. The 23-year-old defenseman recorded 13 points in 56 games with the Canadiens last season. Let's go down here into the profile. Montreal Canadiens GM Kent Hughes announced on Monday the team has agreed to terms on a 2-year, one-way contract with defenseman Jayden Struble. The deal will pay him an AAV of $1.4125 million. Struble appeared in 56 games with the Canadiens in 24-25, recording 2 goals and 11 assists. The Cumberland, Rhode Island, I had to really dig into the brain for that one. R.I. What is R.I.? It's Rhode Island, I think. Native also registered a +2 ±, 52 penalty minutes, and 124 hits, ranking 5th on the team for the latter, tied with Jake Evans. The 23-year-old rearguard also played 2 playoff games against the Washington Capitals. Since making his debut in 23-24, Struble has suited up for 112 games with Montreal and has tallied 23 points in addition to serving 109 penalty minutes. He was selected by the Canadiens in the second round, 46th overall of the 2019 NHL Draft. So, fairly straightforward press release on behalf of the Montreal Canadiens here. Fairly straightforward player profile. But I do think that there are some more elements than meet the eye with a contract extension being handed out to Jayden Struble. Obviously, firstly, they avoid arbitration. But secondly, Montreal is putting Struble's fate in his own hands here. He's signed on till the end of 2026-2027, so there are 2 seasons on this contract, one for $125 million. That is not an insignificant amount of money. We already know the Canadiens are over the cap by about $4 or $5 million now. They're going to use Price's LTIR to be cap compliant, or just trade Price away. Who really knows? But Jayden Struble is in a spot now where he has job security for the next little bit. If the Canadiens were going to give Struble this contract, if they were going to settle and say, okay, yeah, we feel comfortable signing you to a $1.4 million AAV deal, you gotta think that it means they're gonna play him, right? You gotta think that the games played, like he had 56 the most previous year, you gotta think that's going to continue to be a factor here. There's going to be incentive for the Montreal Canadiens to use Jayden Struble and not just bury him in the press box. Why would you re-sign a guy to a pretty decent amount of money when you're just going to have him chilling out and not playing? So everybody's talking about, okay, Hudson, Gooley, Dobson, Carrier. You got a top 4 right there. It's pretty guaranteed. But then you go down into the bottom of the lineup. Okay, Strubel is there, Matheson is there, Xhekaj is there. You have other names that are rotating around. Does David Reinbacher get a chance or what? There are so many guys that you can place in the bottom of the Canadiens' decor that it's going to be kind of a crapshoot to project the lines until we actually see preseason games. It's not going to be very easy to do that at this point in the offseason, July 28th, 2025. But for Strubel, there is a little bit more incentive for him to be that guy, considering the fact that he was, brought onto this team one more time. If we head over to an article, this is what ProHockeyRumours.com went out there and wrote about in regards to Jayden Struble. According to Puckpedia, Struble will earn a $1.6 million salary in 25-26 and $1.225 million in 26-27. He'll be a restricted free agent with arbitration rights upon expiry. We also had AFP Analytics posting that they projected Struble to receive a 2-year, $3.57 million contract in his first trip through RFA status. 3.57 would not have been the AAV That would have been the total amount. So if you do that, AFP Analytics actually projected Strubel to getting a $1.7 million AAV deal. So the fact that the Canadiens were able to get him for only 1.4, I think that is pretty reasonable here. Definitely fine for a young defenseman, a really strong dude who is returning to Montreal and avoiding arbitration. But of course, this is not the only contract signing that we are going to be talking about in this video. We had ourselves another really important deal that I think deserves a commentary on. Let's go over onto Twitter and take a look at this post made by Brinosh IF. This was posted earlier this morning. Welcome home to Galve and Brinosh IF. Nicklas Backstrom. After a long and successful NHL career, it is now clear that Nicklas Backstrom is set for a return in a Brinosh jersey. Yeah, that's right. Nicklas Backstrom, formerly of the Washington Capitals, is playing again. This was posted about on the Brinosh IF website. There is a link that I clicked on, and that is not actually going out there and giving anything. Press release. Nick Backstrom. Is this a video? Oh, it's a video. I don't think we can go out there and watch that. But another article on ProHockeyRumors.com has the scoop. Nick Backstrom signs with SHL's Brinosh IF. This actually was pretty big news yesterday. Brinosh IF of Sweden's SHL will hold a press conference on Monday where they're expected to announce the signing of former NHL center Nick Backstrom, per Sammy Silber of the Hockey News. This was first reported back in May by Thomas Ross and Hans Abrahamsson of Aftonbladet, as they mentioned that Backstrom's deal is expected to run only 1 year. Backstrom had a really big body of work with the Washington Capitals, but then he did miss a lofty 234 games over the last 4 years. That's 71% of the possible 328 games he could have appeared in. There were some conversations about injuries here. He had hip injuries that took a downturn with flare-ups in 2020-2021. He'd go on to miss the first 2 months of 21-22 while looking for non-surgical remedies, but ended up moving forward with a Belgium-based surgery in the following summer. Now, let's ignore all of the 8 years of hip pain and arthroscopic surgery that was plaguing Backstrom throughout his career. The fact is, this guy was one of the best playmakers, if not the best playmaker, in some seasons worth of NHL play in the 2010s. 37 years old right now, so he's not like old, but he was a 4th overall pick by Washington back in 2006. 6 feet, 203, never really was a big guy. But you can see here, 101 points in 2009-2010 with 68 assists and 33 goals. That was the most productive goal season he had. And every other year, even though the goals were never as high as 33, this guy was still potting in assists left, right, and center. I guess that you could say it's easy when you got Alex Ovechkin to toss the puck to, but just look at these point totals, man. 79 points in 2014, 78 in 2015, 70 in 2016 in 75 games, 86 points in 2017, 71 points in 2018, 74 points in 2019, 54 points in a shortened season 2020. This guy was so good. It's just unfortunate that the past few years have been very difficult for him health-wise. He had 0 games in 24-25 with Washington, 8 games with Washington in 23-24. The Capitals were really good this most previous campaign, so it's very unfortunate that Nick Backstrom was not able to be a part of that. We all recognize that Washington's center search has taken a little bit of a different turn now with the presence of Dylan Strome and the emergence of Pierre-Luc Dubois. Backstrom isn't necessarily needed anymore, and because his contract had expired, there was an opportunity for him to return home and head over to a place where he could try to get back in the skates and back on the ice. What an absolute legend this guy is. Thoughts in the comment section below about Jayden Struble signing with the Canadiens. Thoughts in the comment section below about Nick Backstrom's pro return and heading over to the Brinosh IF and the SHL. How do you think these guys are going to do the upcoming season? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.